Warning: the following audio drama contains adult themes and scenes of intense violence. Listener discretion is advised. Previously.
In many lifetimes, I have been a warrior. Any sort of weapon one can carry. But now, would I endure if common bandits were to intrude into this very moment?
There it is. The old monastery.
Doesn't look so empty now, does it? Looky here. Who do you think she is?
A witch, perhaps. Talk to us, woman.
A witch doesn't necessarily need hands to perform magic.
I stayed some moments with the parish priest. He told me his bishop heard the Pope was sending a special legate to the English crown to propose peace. The bishop said he didn't know who was being sent on the Pope's behalf.
But you say you are here without Gregory's blessing.
Indeed. It's I am here at the calling of the Lord himself.
The Pope is supposed to be God's word on earth. How is it the Lord instead talks to you and not him?
If you wish to wait, may I recommend you keep watch on the channel. You will see the Pope's emissary will fail, and the English devil come at you with renewed ranks.
He will have a retinue of troops, loyal only to him. He may already be on English ground. Take me with you.
I have not come to fight.
Then what?
I have come to tell you. You are being manipulated by the Cardinal. Do not do as he says when it comes to fighting the English.
You've lost.
Whatever you plan on doing to the English, you will fail.
My mind and God's mind are one. You have no power over us.
Eye of the Beholders. Episode 12. The Fields of Armageddon. Aaron remained hidden in the fields beyond Pasquier's Paris villa, though he knew he would not be safe remaining there, at least not without help. His salvation came when he spied a hawk flying overhead. He closed his eyes and reached out for it with the expanse of his consciousness. The bird dived and landed upon his outstretched forearm.
I will be your mind, and yours will be mine. I will call you Sia.
The bird swayed, in its own way accepting his pronouncement, then took to the sky. Meanwhile, Samantha and James stood at the bow of a ship crossing the Channel Sea from France to England, seeing the white cliffs of Dover on their approach. They glanced at each other. The weight, the seriousness of what was to come, it roared within their souls. Indeed, a whole plan was unfolding as one of the Pasquier twins held court with the English monarch, King Edward III. The ruler was no match for the cardinal's treachery. While he was squirming his way into the English fold, Samantha joined a nunnery as a way for her to reconnoiter. With the lack of her hands, the sisters were more than willing to accept her, and give her guidance and support through their vision of God's grace. Similarly, James was able to join an English monastery. As he and Samantha settled in, they both noticed the sermons at Mass beginning to change. Over time, a similar theme ran through all of them: turn the other cheek.
As Jesus said, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also.
Over the course of several weeks, James came to learn that Pasquier was meeting quite freely with English knights, socializing with them, treating them generously and kindly, becoming close with a few of them. While he and Samantha kept probing, Aaron stayed hidden in France, keeping an eye on the other twins' movements, following his carriage wherever he went, occasionally using Sia's bird's eye view to track him. After a few months, on a particularly windswept evening, he had followed him to the pier at Calais, where the cardinal received his twin brother on his return from England. The meeting was short. As Aaron kept watch, he spied one of the twins eventually stowing himself away onto a vessel returning to England. Aaron knew he was looking to infiltrate the English army without his religious rank, to attempt to blend in, to do what he could using his extrasensory skills to control the English in the battle sure to come. Within days, regiments of English troops were boarding naval ships bound for France. Meanwhile, non-military vessels were loading personnel to assist with the troops. These included nuns and other clergy, reuniting James and Samantha. James kept his hood up, hoping to keep his face in the shadows as he and Samantha ascended the gangplank to board one of the ships.
With all this turn the other cheek sermonizing, and the cardinal's influence over the king and his military captains, it's going to be an outright slaughter.
When they reached the ship's deck, James took Samantha aside and adjusted her hood, hoping to hide her face as he had done his.
He has hidden himself most effectively since he sneaked back into the country. But this is all his doing. Somehow or other, he will remain close to the captains and seneschals to ensure success. Let us pray he doesn't see either of us before we find him.
Within an hour, the entire English flotilla had disembarked. It didn't take long for the French army to get ready. After the English had landed, a battlefield for the fight of European supremacy was soon chosen. The French came with bowmen, infantry, mounted knights, around 7,000 warriors altogether. Descouclaw surveyed the troops with Renier and Pierre alongside him.
God's power flows unquestionably through His Eminence.
Yet,
A man I have never seen keep his blade sheathed while his countrymen die around him.
it is God's will.
Pierre tried to remain stoic in his saddle, but inwardly agreed with Descouclaw. But he also knew Renier and the Pasquier twins were not normal. And so then, neither would be this coming fight.
Yes, but the English are godless.
Has the Cardinal not already shown you the victory?
Many times, yes. But these are not hapless villagers, women, and children.
That is not what I meant. Has he not shown you this victory? Has not the Pope himself given you his blessing?
He has.
Then let us go with God.
On the English side of the field, thousands of fighters also stood poised. Bowmen, foot soldiers, mounted knights at the rear. They were a slightly smaller group than the French. Nonetheless, an English captain rode out with a squire and standard-bearer to meet de Gouclaw on the parley ground. Renier remained beside the French constable, while Pierre stayed with the legion of troops.
The terms are to return all continental lands to the French crown, unconditionally, including the ports, and for your King Edward to retract all claims to the crown and sovereignty of the French kingdom. Even more, all those of English blood will abandon this nation and return to your island from which they came.
'Tis of God's will that we are to meet upon this battlefield, and whoever can show their worthiness to God shall gain all from his favor.
So it will be.
With that, de Gouclaw turned back to the French side. The English captain mirrored him, returning back to his group, smiling and sniffing the air as if he could already smell the glory of Eden. From far behind the English battalion, Friar James meandered through the retinue of clergy to watch the mounted knights and military commanders, hoping to see a sign of Pasquier somewhere among them. Samantha did the same, spying from a hillside where a camp of tents had been erected for the nuns to help with wounded soldiers. She closed her eyes and steadied her breath, preparing for the inevitable conflict. Meanwhile, back at his Paris villa, Pasquier emerged from his carriage and hurried inside, brushing off the head servant as he entered. Overhead, Sia banked and saw it all.
I wish to be left alone.
Yes, Your Grace.
Aaron, sitting in meditation in tall grass far from the home, saw within his mind's eye exactly what Sia had witnessed. Back at the battlefield, the French infantry began to advance. Several frontline Englishmen gulped and trembled. They kept their hands clenched tightly to the hilts of their swords or bows, hoping to remain brave, while their captains shouted,
Show your worthiness to God. Peace will be granted this day if we do not dirty the field with French blood.
Turn the other cheek. We have seen our victory from God's own eyes.
Several English infantry closed their eyes to pray. They wanted to grasp their weapons, but also chose not to, having faith that this day, heavenly victory would be theirs.
Throw your weapons down! Throw them down! Do you not have faith in God?
De Gouclaw stared, hard, staunch, and was astonished to see the forward English lines suddenly tossing their weapons into the open field. Renier smiled, the plan working. Pierre was spooked. Many of the French troops were baffled, but nonetheless gripped their weapons tighter. A few proceeded with sinister grins.
Let your weapons go. Show your worth, your innocence, your refusal to kill. It pleases God. He will spare your life.
But Degoutcla's message for his troops was vastly different.
God asks not for mercy for his enemies. A thief who steals must forfeit the hands that take it. As God brought plagues to Egypt, he brings us to devour the English!
The French slaughtered. Many picked up the discarded English weapons, killing the hapless infantry with their own armory. At the rear of the troops, other English warriors looked on with wide, astonished, panicked eyes. The deaths of those in the front lines were, fortunately, quick. Many reached for their weapons, though they were supposedly assured success.
Don't disappoint God. The French are not worthy.
This land is ours.
Within minutes, the front line was nearly all but gone as the French continued to advance. Several English archers ran away. Others rushed forward, grabbing their discarded bows, then launched a retaliation. Swordsmen took heed and did the same, racing to engage. Meanwhile, there were still swaths of English on their knees, weaponless, praying for salvation to come. The English arrows slammed into the French. Several survived from holding aloft their shields, just pissing them off more.
Godless scum!
Pierre licked and hurled daggers at impressive speed, staking Englishmen in the head, throat, and chest. Renier showed his Muein fighting skills, going after those English willing to fight in close combat. They were no match for his recognition of non-linear time in predicting their tactics. Degoutcla, though not Muein trained, was just as relentless. At the rear of the English warband, mounted knights watched their troops falling apart, the French now halfway toward them, having decimated the totality of the front line.
Don't fight. We will not be worthy.
He spied several praying fighters instantly become martyrs as the French stabbed them through or removed their heads from their shoulders. At the same time, other Englishmen were fighting madly with their French attackers.
God grants us victory. Do not fight! Do not fight!
All the English captains could do was watch, stunned, lost about what to do next.
Commendator.
The captain spun his horse to see Pasquier, dressed as a common monk with a hood, running toward him.
Commendator, here.
When the captain nestled close, Pasquier pulled him ruthlessly off the horse. From a distance, James saw it and raced to intercept. At that same moment, Samantha spotted James, sprinting, following his path to see Pasquier herself, as the clergyman grabbed the English captain's ear. Frantic, she looked about, making sure she wasn't being seen, then raced to a spot behind a pair of tents and dropped down, working hard to meditate. The other English captains hurried around Pasquier as he burrowed into his victim's brain.
If they will not lay down their weapons, they must retreat.
Yes. Retreat.
Pasquier let go. The other captains watched, unsure. Then,
Pull them back! Pull them back here! Bring them back! Retreat!
the others looked curiously at one another. With a stern glare from Pasquier, they turned their steeds to give the command.
Retreat!
Retreat!
They rumbled past Pasquier in their route to escape. He watched them go, then turned to see James standing before him.
Brother, you must come with me, quickly.
For what reason?
The nuns need assistance. Come, please.
Pasquier grit his teeth, not wishing to give up his facade, so chased after him. On the battlefield, small pockets of English fighters turned tail, breaking up the troops. French warriors pursued, cutting them down.
They splinter!
Back in the field outside Pasquier's French villa, as soon as Samantha's presence struck him, Aaron opened his eyes, ready to do what must come next. Meanwhile, in the midst of the battle, Pierre smiled wide, enjoying his success with each throw of a dagger.
God bless this day.
While back at the private villa, Aaron lifted the cellar doors and raced down into the darkness. Within no time, he came out into the kitchen, where he quickly knocked a servant unconscious. A second servant rushed in, overhearing the attack. It didn't matter. Aaron spiraled, knocking him over, then took him by the ear. Back on the battlefield, English soldiers collapsed by the dozens.
If we keep falling back, we'll be slaughtered!
Indeed, as they witnessed Renier, Desgouclaw, and Pierre wading into the center of the storm, taking out anyone who came across them. At the same moment, Aaron raced up the staircase to Pasquier's private room. The servant he had linked mind with convinced the other house staff he was there by Pasquier's personal request. Meanwhile, Samantha was still meditating behind the tents in the camp of the nunneries. In her mind, she saw Aaron hurrying into Pasquier's room, where Aaron found the Pasquier twin sitting in a chair in deep meditation. The cardinal opened his eyes as Aaron approached. With her ability of far sight, Samantha saw Pasquier engage Aaron, but sudden footsteps interrupted. She stood as James led the other Pasquier twin behind him.
She is right here.
He stepped aside, giving the twin full recognition of her. Pasquier sneered. Samantha raced for him. He turned to escape, but Samantha leapt onto his back, sending him to the ground. Pasquier twisted, shoving her off. Then they both climbed to their feet. Pasquier produced a dagger from under his cloak. Samantha smiled, and with a few flips of her feet, she disarmed him and knocked him on his ass. At the same time at the villa, the other twin fell from Aaron's assault, landing face first onto the floor. He turned over, just as Aaron grabbed him by the ear. At just the same moment, Samantha grabbed the others. She closed her eyes to make the mental link. While the twin at the villa raised a hand to interrupt the meld as he had done before, but then suddenly stopped, his eyes vacant, staring up at the ceiling.
You may be two people, but you are of one mind.
Samantha saw her twin also gasp, his eyes vacant.
You cannot block out both of us.
Meanwhile, James watched, astounded. Back at the villa, the twin responded in exactly the same way as his brother. The floodgate now opened. The truth revealed. Samantha let go and rose to her feet as the twin coiled into fetal position. Other nuns suddenly came running, wondering what was happening. The same reaction was happening at the villa as the twin coiled into fetal position. Samantha's twin suddenly uncoiled himself and grabbed at his chest. Friar James instantly fell at his side, recognizing what was happening.
No, brother. Stay with us.
He looked precariously at Samantha.
Can you save him?
Samantha fell to the twin's side, then quickly ran a hand over the air surrounding his body, working to interact with the energy of his aura.
Let me in here.
At the same time, Aaron was doing his best to help the other brother, also in cardiac arrest.
No, do not leave.
He suddenly pounded the Cardinal's chest with a fist, hoping to interrupt the attack. Meanwhile, a group of nuns watched, stunned, as Samantha hit Pasquier's breast, trying desperately to save him.
If it is his path, he will travel it. So travel it.
But at the villa, the twin exhaled his final breath. Aaron looked on, startled at the passing. With the assistance of the other nuns, Friar James helped Pasquier to stand. He wept.
You're going to be fine, brother. Take it easy.
Meanwhile, Samantha rushed from the gathering to look out across the battlefield, seeing the English continuing to be slaughtered, whether by giving up their swords in hopes of heavenly victory or in fighting while retreating. She hurried back to James and Pasquier, with only a few nuns still around.
We must leave.
She led them along the ridge. Pasquier froze when seeing the battle, looking on it with new eyes. Samantha and James arrested him. He fell to his knees and puked, then collapsed onto his side in astounded realization. Meanwhile, servants at the villa stared in awe at Pasquier's corpse, wondering what happened. As Aaron galloped away from the compound at top speed, when night fell, nuns aided the wounded and dying back at their tent camp. All the beds were filled, leaving hundreds to lie about on the ground. Many were already dead. In one of the pavilions, Friar James poured a flask of water onto Pasquier's parched lips. The cardinal refused, staring longingly at the tent's ceiling.
You must take some sustenance.
Samantha came up alongside, looking on him with compassion and not revenge. Pasquier stole a quick glance, then returned to looking at the rooftop.
He has refused all nourishment. His limbs have weakened.
It is not for us to decide.
She turned away, but Pasquier grabbed her right arm, stopping her, gazing at her lost hand.
I have taken away so much from so many. I thought myself a grand tree, without seeing the others of the forest, without realizing.
You weren't a tree at all, but rather the light that brings them into view.
Pasquier gasped. James noticed the hair on the back of his own hands standing on end. Samantha saw it too.
You feel them.
Pasquier's eyes burst wide.
Father. Mother.
James gave Samantha a bewildered look. She nodded. He then noticed the goose pimples trailing up his arm like a snake.
You are all alive. Brother, you have come to meet me.
A couple of other nuns crowded around. Just as Pasquier reached blindly into the air, he puffed his final breath and fell gently into death. Friar James watched his goose pimple hair extend fully up, then collapse as it seemed Pasquier's spirit evaporated into the cool night air. He looked at Samantha. Meanwhile, at the French camp, Renier raced out of a tent, sensing something sinister. Pierre held him back.
You rush into the English camps. There is still enough of them to cut you down.
Something has happened to them. To them both. It burns in my spirit.
Trust in the grace of God, my lord.
Renier hesitated, then strutted back inside, seething. Samantha nestled close to James as he closed Pasquier's eyes.
The French will keep coming.
When morning came, the battle continued. Fresh mounds of dirt signified the graves of the dead as the entirety of the nunnery camp was being packed up and hauled out. Samantha stood at the knoll in the hill, her life as a soldier beckoning as she bore witness to the engagement. James noticed as he and other monks were packing to escape.
Samantha, remaining behind, there is nothing more you can do.
Samantha hesitated, then rejoined her group. That night, the tent camp had been rebuilt in a new location, again filled with the dead and dying. Along with the English camp of the warriors themselves, where Samantha passed between tents and military men as she spied.
Our only hope is to turn and fight. We cannot outrun them.
How many more of our people must die before we prove to God our worthiness?
She stopped, hanging on his words.
It is decided then.
James motioned the cross over another deceased English soldier as Samantha stepped in. She stood beside him, staring at the body. James noticed another round of goose pimples flare up his arm.
I feel them come. I feel them go.
They are going to fight.
Do not let me feel you. Go.
Being a nun is not who I am.
The next morning, the battlefield was shrouded in thick fog. Both sides, English and French, were lined up, faces bruised, bloodied, slashed from the earlier battles. English longbowmen stretched their wares, then released. Many of the arrows flew off French shields, though some did pierce through, killing the fighter anyway. The longbowmen launched another strike. The English front marched forward. Renier, alongside Desgouclaw and Pierre, raised his sword. The French charged. In the midst of the carnage, nimble legs ran and jumped between combatants. Occasionally, the feet struck out, knocking Frenchmen unconscious. It was Samantha, in a stunning display of fighting. No longer dressed as a nun, she had clad herself in proper animal skins with armored breastplate and face shield. In her three-fingered left hand, a piercing sword, tied snugly to the hand and wrist. On her right, another short sword tied on the outside of the arm, no hand needed. She engaged Frenchman after Frenchman, the sword expertly wielded despite it being her non-dominant arm, in combination with using the short sword to block. In combination with ducking, parrying, and spinning, she disarmed each combatant and knocked them cold. A Frenchman managed to strike her face shield off, exposing her as being a woman. The moment of startle is all Samantha needed to take him out. Then Pierre and Renier spotted her.
The witch is here!
He staked an Englishman and shoved his way her direction. Renier intercepted.
She's mine.
He raced for her. Samantha spotted him. She grit her teeth, then hurried to meet him. They collided in an awesome battle. Samantha used both injured arms, clad in swords in combination with her feet. However, Renier was able to anticipate the moves. Expert warrior against expert warrior. Meanwhile, Desgouclaw advanced on a pair of English captains, slaughtering them effortlessly. Elsewhere, using a staff, Friar James swatted a sword from a Frenchman and clobbered him over the head. He motioned the cross over him.
God bless you.
Then he hurried to break up a fight, all the while keeping watch on Samantha and Renier. Renier went on the offensive. The short sword loosened from Samantha's right arm and fell away. She managed to keep grip on the other, though it was becoming flimsy with each hit. Renier finally hammered it off, knocking her to the ground. He brought the tip of his blade to her throat, just beneath the chin.
No wild cavalry to save you now.
Renier looked up, just as Sia clawed into his face. All around, other birds dive-bombed the field, disrupting the battle. Suddenly, a swarm of Muein rushed into the fray. There was a mixture of European and African, the combined forces of the northern and southern schools. They knocked weapons from warriors, cupped ears to impart knowledge, the works. Brightly colored robes showed even the masters had taken to the fight. Renier hustled to get away, but Samantha tackled him. Renier knocked her off. He jumped to his feet, swinging his sword. Before the blade could strike, Aaron knocked it from his hand, then kicked him squarely in the chest. At last, he had arrived to the fight. Pierre hurried to help Renier. James intercepted, suddenly swiping his staff in front of the warrior's ankles, tripping him onto the ground. He planted the butt end of the pole between his eyes.
Pray, if you are ready to see the Lord.
Aaron and Samantha joined each other, ready to advance on Renier. Renier closed his eyes and steadied his breath, as they would. When he looked again, they saw he clearly had Muein tunnel vision. He went after them both, taking them on simultaneously, brilliantly. Friar James watched, awed and horrified, knowing he could not help. Samantha knocked the sword from Renier's hand. Renier sent her flying, knocking her out of breath. Then he went after Aaron, pounding him to the ground, clamping his hands tightly around his throat, vigorously choking him. Samantha looked up from where she had fallen, seeing the attack, yet also noticing the other Muein too busy to help, along with James too preoccupied with keeping Pierre down. But Renier's sword was lying in the grass. If she could only grab it, but she knew she couldn't. She ran, then slid into the grass. She clenched the sword hilt between her feet, then rolled up onto her forearms, pushing off the ground, twirling, taking both Renier's arms off with the spinning blade. Renier fell onto his back, holding up his bloody stumps. Aaron slowly climbed to his feet, taking the bloody sword and putting the tip to Renier's neck.
I will not kill you, but you have other appendages to be removed.
A white-robed northern Muein master gently moved Aaron aside, then knelt. Renier suddenly looked terrified as the leader reached for him. Other masters formed a closed circle around him while the master took Renier's ear. James watched in awe as it appeared the battle was winding down. Many of the Muein embraced weeping soldiers, while others knocked away opponents' weapons. When the soldiers raced to escape, the Muein sat on the ground and moved into meditation, their task complete. Aaron spied Degouclaw. Their eyes locked. Then Degouclaw rode off, leaving the battlefield behind. Renier shrieked. The master released him. Renier rolled onto his grotesque and bloodied arms. He spotted Pierre outside the ring of Muein masters, with Friar James towering over him. He suddenly bolted toward him, breaking through the Muein. Startled, James stepped aside. Freaked, Pierre leapt up and armed himself, as it appeared Renier was a raving mad lunatic. Renier jumped to embrace him, but Pierre impaled him. Looking stunned, Pierre lowered him to the earth, his master's final breath escaping him as he rested upon the ground. Seeing Pierre's shock, Friar James pulled him away. The Muein masters circled, taking seat on the ground, looking sadly at the loss of Renier and all the other lives upon the field. Aaron went to Pierre.
His life goes on, with a truer sense of self than what he believed. He will endure, as all life endures.
Which?
No.
Just those with great spiritual gifts. Corinthians.
Aaron then went to Samantha, joining her in seated meditation.
Why did you not blend with his mind?
His path is his own. His lessons need be learned from within himself. It was not my place, in that moment, to give them.
Yes, Master Guardian.
James noticed the hair on both his arms stand up. He slowly spun around, feeling a supernatural calm come over the field from the meditating Muein. Pierre looked about, then trudged away. Awed and terrified, he found a horse and rode off. Later, burial mounds covered the field. With assistance from both French and English survivors, the dead were buried. There weren't any hugs among the enemies, just a solemn understanding, laced with regret. Then the troops began their separate journeys home. Several looked upon the Muein with suspicion, but knew they dare not fight them. Some asked for monks to join them, which a few of them happily did, nodding a goodbye to their brethren as they followed the bloody warriors off the field. Aaron, Samantha, and Friar James watched a few of the monks departing with the troops. One of the northern Muein masters watched with them.
It is their pilgrimage of service. They will face hardships, but nevertheless will learn and teach.
Later, the remaining Muein gathered together, headed by their masters, ready to return home. A master from the African school warmly looked upon Aaron, Samantha, and James.
You would be most welcome as new masters within our temple school, including you, Blackfriar. Our location is safe, along with the knowledge held within it. As you gave home to our sister Ishraq, we return the same to you.
How did you
come here? Oh, my friend, in this world of duality, darkness cannot know itself without the contrast of light.
James's eyes brightened, relating to the wisdom from his own near-death experience.
After the physical losses of our Western and Eastern brethren, we knew it was time to remind the darkness of its source, as it had indeed come to remind us ourselves. Now, shall you join us?
James suddenly noticed the goose pimples on the back of his hand again. At that moment, Aaron saw Rachel, Weimark, Golda, and Matthew standing among them. Samantha smiled, sensing them in her own unique way. The African master's face lit up. Clearly, he was witnessing them too.
No, I see there are other plans for you.
Nonetheless, he clasped Aaron's arm as a brother.
But know, it will always be a sanctuary open for your souls.
The master from the northern school concurred.
As it also is with us.
Blessed be your light.
And blessed be all of yours.
With that, the two Muein schools gathered together and began their journeys home. James placed himself between Aaron and Samantha and put his arms around both of them.
I shall make you both Christian mystics.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless. Mwah. But only if it makes us as humble as you.
Yes, my daughter, because you still need some humbling.
Samantha smiled, hearing him. The trio looked warmly at each other, acknowledging the depth of their friendship, their love, the closure of this mission. Smiling along with them were their loved ones in spirit, Rachel, Golda, Weimark, Matthew, and the other Muein brethren from the eastern and western schools, along with the spirits of the hawks, falcons, and all life that had been lost in the conflict, but were now free.